Okay, I think we are live on YouTube. Let me have the other computer in my headset here. I can listen back. Let me just see if you guys can hear me or not. Everything's working. The camera's working on here. That's good. Okay, looks like you guys can hear me. All right, good. Wasn't working earlier. I don't know what was going on with Streamlabs, but not Streamlabs, StreamYard was not working. So looks like whatever happened there has been fixed. So that's good. We actually start the show properly here as usual. So let me get the audio folks joining us on good old Spotify, and we will do that here in 3, 2, 1. And welcome in for Votables Podcast. A little late today. Had some issues on the YouTube side of things. Those have been taken care of here for October 28th, 2025. A couple days before Halloween, of course. A lot of folks, including me, who are, big in the weather community. Of course, our thoughts are with the folks in Jamaica right now. Hurricane Melissa is making landfall, or has already made landfall, I believe, as a pretty powerful Category 5. I think the pressure is below 900. So it's a very, very powerful hurricane. One of the most powerful ones we have seen. It was even more powerful than Milton last year. And that was a really bad storm here in Florida. So thoughts of those folks down there have been watching a lot of the coverage. It looks as bad as you think it is. So hopefully folks there were heeding the warnings and paying attention. But we have a show today, of course. Like I mentioned, we were a little bit delayed on YouTube, but that's okay. Things happen. Luckily, we have two vendors we use here, both StreamYard and Restream. So we are on Restream on YouTube. We are live. So we'll just double check just to make sure we are actually indeed live. I'm pretty sure we are. Yes, we are live. So how about that? By the way, too, as we are about to get started here, might be getting I am getting a new clip-on mic for the iPad. So hopefully the audio should sound a lot better on the YouTube side of things than it has been in the past. I know that might be an issue. At least that's something that I have been aware of. So excuse me. So we will be taking care of that for the Thursday show. But yeah, of course we have week 10, I believe, for college football now. That's how far we've gotten. Yeah, week 10 predictions. A lot of big games, especially in the SEC. Of course, we have coaching carousel update. A lot of things have happened since the last time we talked officially about, Brian Kelly being fired. A lot more jobs could potentially open as well. And we also have the Tuesday poll back on Tuesday. And we also have thoughts on Saints over Buccaneers game 1 reaction as well. Of course, if you're new here on YouTube, welcome in. Of course, we had audio issues and camera issues on YouTube. So, but we're fine now. But yeah, we do this show twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays around this time. Normally, sometimes in the evenings if we have to. But I talk college football, Marvel, Star Wars news, and then Buccaneers towards the end usually. So that's how the show goes. Again, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcast feed, Spotify, and also be sure to follow us on X, Twitter as well. So be sure to do all that stuff. This is not behind a paywall. All the information you're getting from me is completely free of charge. So don't have to worry about, signing up for a Patreon page or anything like that. That's not what we do here. So let's get started here. Again, we're a little bit late, so let's go right ahead here. Coaching carousel update. Of course, we had Brian Kelly was fired on Sunday, of course, right after the Bucs game. And, as a Bucs fan, I sort of feel responsible for him getting fired. And I mentioned this on Twitter, on X, during the Bucs game, that I kind of felt like that the announcement was going to come after the game. Because if you don't know, or if you haven't noticed, a lot of LSU folks are also Saints fans. And it almost seemed like to me, the way that game went, of course, we'll talk about it later, sort of added on even more anger for folks in the state of Louisiana. So interesting timing there. Definitely felt like it didn't help if you're LSU. The Saints got destroyed in their big rivalry game. So obviously didn't help, and it probably just added more fuel and anger to the whole situation with Brian Kelly. So he's out. Happened Sunday. We did a quick video on it. I recorded it Sunday night. Didn't post it until yesterday for some reason. But yeah, I recorded it during Sunday Night Football. But just to sort of wrap it up, look, I mean, he, according to people like Josh Payton and others, Brian, at least, it's not like he was lazy, but he didn't seem to care for certain things out running a football program, right? Like, for example, I think Josh Payton brought it up on his show that, Brian Kelly would be like, going to his house in Florida during crucial times during the spring and summer. Didn't really give a crap about, what assistants he was hiring. You didn't even know them that much. And just a lot of weird stuff going on there. Now, I think a lot of folks noticed this, and I mean, Josh brought it up too, that his tone sort of changed on Brian Kelly. And I think he's also going to address it during his show tonight about how initially he's like, look, it doesn't matter if he fits or not. He's a winning coach. He, seems like he does care. I think when Josh Payton, when he was reacting to Brian Kelly being hired, he mentioned about, him being a fit at LSU. Just because he's from the Northeast and, he's not from the Southeast, doesn't mean you can't fit, right? Nick Saban, famously from West Virginia via, I believe, Kent State and Michigan State, goes to LSU, wins a national title. Urban Meyer from the Mountain, the old, wasn't the Mountain West, but the same idea, from the Mountain West, wins a national title at Florida. Now you can also throw in Brian Kalen DeBoer as well as a current success in the SEC from guys who are not from the Southeastern region. It's not a requirement to be from there, but I think a lot of folks, for some reason, care about it, which is something that, Bud Elliott brought up too. It's like, while we understand that there is certain, sort of prerequisites for coaches being hired in the SEC, that you have to have some history of coaching in the region, you shouldn't box yourself into that, because if you do that, you have the tendency to, not be in play for other coaches and missing opportunities. But, I understand too the failures of certain coaches who have come from other parts of the country to go to the SEC and have failed. Brian Harsin famously at Auburn was a big, I guess, sort of the big example up until Brian Kelly. But I don't know. I do agree with Bud, and he may have mentioned this on his, several times over the past 48 hours or so, that just because, just because, a coach is not from the Southeastern region of the country doesn't mean he can't win the SEC. There's been more examples than not of guys who are not from the Southeastern region who have come to the SEC, and I've actually taught more people about how to win than folks who have been doing it for a long time here. Again, think Kalen DeBoer, Urban Meyer, Nick Saban. Now, again, I know there's a lot of other examples of, Brian Harsin and now Brian Kelly, the two Bryans, but there's a lot more times than not that coaches have come outside of the Southeastern region and have actually done better than coaches who have history in the Southeast that have gotten coaching jobs, right? Will Muschamp, Hugh Freeze currently. Those are just more recent examples, but there's another one, Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M. So it's not a prerequisite to have coaches who have coached the Southeastern region to be hired at other Southeastern region schools, right? Either the ACC or, SEC. So it's not a prerequisite. It should not be. It shouldn't scare you away just because Brian Kelly and Brian Harsin failed doesn't mean you're going to get that guaranteed every single time. Yes, getting coaches is a coin flip, and it's not a guarantee that it'll work out. But boxing yourself in to this mentality of, we got to hire a guy from the SEC, only SEC, woo! Again, recent coaches who have had success in the SEC, currently or in the past, did not come from the Southeastern region, okay? Brian Kelly and Brian Harsin are just two examples of it not happening. There have been more examples of success from coaches who are not from the region, this region of the country, right? Again, Kalen DeBoer, Urban Meyer, Nick Saban, not SEC guys. They're having success right now, or have had in the past. So, but yeah, he's out. There's a lot of things that he did wrong. Brian Kelly did sort of his mentality, and that's the thing too. Again, what Josh Payton said back when Brian Kelly was hired, and sort of congratulating LSU for doing that. What he was saying wasn't wrong. Of course, Josh and others in the industry didn't know this was going to happen. The fact that he did not care about the state of Louisiana, he did not embrace Louisiana, he did not sort of embrace certain elements of the LSU job that you have to embrace. Nothing to do with the culture, nothing to do with your accent, nothing to do with where you're from. It's just the certain operational things that I don't think a lot of us foresaw happening that ultimately doomed Brian Kelly. Again, I think what Josh Pitt was saying all the way back in 2021 about, fit and whatnot, that's still true. Okay, that's not something he made up and like I don't know, like it's not like something he totally made up. Like I totally believe that he was right about that. That the fit in terms of culturally for the most part, and him not being from the Southeast, and that's true. Again, we've seen coaches currently in the past who have won national championships or have been very successful that are not from the Southeastern region that could have coached in the SEC. And Brian Kelly and Brian Harsin were just two failures of that. It's very rare, but they're just two examples of they're just examples of failures that have been, that are not very common. I guess what I was trying to say. And again, I think what Josh Pitt was saying back, years ago when Brian Kelly was hired, saying that again, just because he's not from the Southeast doesn't mean he can be successful. That's still true. And that's why I think if you're any team and, hiring a coach, don't box yourself in with just, does this guy have ties regionally? Doesn't matter. As long as they are a winner, that they understand what it takes to be a winner down there and actually showing that and actually, having that mentality, it will work. And unfortunately, you saw it with Brian Kelly, I guess now famously, that he did not have that mentality. He did not, he kind of, in terms of LSU comparisons, got lazy compared to their rivals and a whole lot of things. So he's out of a job. And I know folks spotted him at a Mexican restaurant yesterday. I mean, like, whatever. I mean, what is he going to do? Like, just do nothing? Just buy out money, but who really cares now? He's done with LSU. So that job is now open now, by the way. And, of course, there's been a lot of thoughts about who's going to take that job. Of course, the name that has been, or at least two names that have been popping up a little bit, is, of course, Lane Kiffin, who is in play for the Florida job, and John Sumrall down the road in Tulane, down I-10 there in New Orleans. And those are going to be two tough gets for LSU. Now, of course, they're the biggest job in the market right now, by far. But I think of Kiffin, the Florida thing, he has personal ties to Florida, to UF. Of course, he idolizes Spurrier. That's going to be tough to pull off. But I think LSU, of course, the money and stuff, I don't think will be a problem. And, of course, with John Sumrall, it's the Auburn thing, right? If Auburn does come open, look, he's from the state of Alabama. His wife, I believe, went to Auburn. I think he has said privately that Auburn is sort of his dream job to get if the opportunity ever came to him. So while those are two coaches that if you're an LSU fan, you would reasonably expect to get, it's going to be tough, though. It's going to be tough, especially with Sumrall and his ties to Auburn and sort of it almost seems like a foregone conclusion that that job opens up. That's almost lock and key almost. So we'll see. Another thing, too, with LSU that would scare folks away, not necessarily the job, because the job is good. The job's the most premier job in the country, for sure. But the thing that would scare folks away, like perhaps a John Sumrall or perhaps Lane Kiffin, if they don't get one of those two guys, there's no alignment. And there's a lot of talk right now about Scott Woodward, the AD there, who now famously has the two largest buyouts in college football history: Brian Kelly at LSU now, and then Jimbo Fisher at A&M. And this is on his record, and that hurts. And that is definitely not something you want to have on your permanent record as an AD. And there's a lot of talk right now about could there be a potential regime change with him? Like, this whole thing gets cleared out. I don't think it's crazy to think that. I think Scott Woodward's definitely on borrowed time, and it seems like that's the case, much like with Florida State, Mike Alford. But so yeah, I think the alignment thing there, that could be an issue for some of these guys. Not to mention both Sumrall and I think Lane Kiffin are fairly in the playoff mix in terms of their teams getting in various ways. Obviously, Sumrall the G5 and Kiffin going to be getting in there, of course, more than likely to the playoffs. So that will obviously delay some stuff of them being hired, which will be interesting to watch. But yeah, the alignment thing at LSU, that's the main thing that's stopping at least other folks getting involved. I know a lot of folks have brought up Dane Lanning. Dane Lanning's not leaving Oregon, okay? Like, jobs like that'd be like, and this is just with this job. You saw it with Auburn a couple years ago. You saw it with, I forgot who it was, not long ago. I believe it was at A&M too. It's like, sort of like when back when Saban was at Alabama and he was up for the Texas job before they gave it to Charlie Strong, I believe. This is after Noah Brown. Like, Nick Saban wasn't leaving Bama. Okay, that's a similar situation with Dane Lanning. Like, Dane Lanning has Nike money, Phil Knight and his estate. like like Oregon to me is sort of like what Texas is right now, or it was under Mac Brown. They have all the resources, and again, it's sort of the same thing, right? It's like when when Texas was trying to pry Nick Saban from Alabama. Nick Saban was not leaving Alabama because Alabama is equal to or even better than a job. Same with Oregon. Oregon, better resources, more leverage in a lot of sense of the money and stuff like that. I'm not saying LSU has money; they're not poor, but what Oregon also has, and LSU does not, is they have alignment, whereas LSU does not. And there's a lot of cooks in that kitchen for sure. I mean, look, Matt Moscona. I mean, look, hey, me and him don't necessarily agree. We're both on opposite sides of the Saints Bucs rivalry, but I respect Matt for what he does, and he even put out there on his both on Twitter and Twitter X and on YouTube that that whole LSU thing, that was a bit of a mess behind the scenes in terms of who was handling what. Multiple camps, I guess, if you will, were handling the firing of Brian Kelly. So the LSU job is the best job on the market, but the best way I can put it, while it might be the best job on the market, it's probably the most disorganized operation behind the scenes right now. Them in Florida State probably would be. Now, obviously, the FC's not open, but of course, the thinking is it will be open. But yeah, LSU, good job. Clearly the best job on the market. They're the most disorganized right now out of any of the current jobs and the jobs that might come open in the future. Now, speaking of future openings, of course, Hugh Freeze to Auburn talked about it with Summerall. Even if they won this weekend, I mentioned this on the reaction show. They re-recorded on Saturday night. I think Hugh Freeze has done either way. I think there will. I just feel like his time there at Auburn is coming to an end. I think it's sort of like Bill Napier, right? It just didn't matter if they win or lost going forward. It doesn't really matter. I mean, going for the third straight year, I believe, at Auburn, it's pitiful. Something that's never happened before, at least in the modern era. So I do believe that a regime change is coming there with Hugh Freeze. Whether it's him actually getting fired or the more cleaner, nicer route is, look, he resigns and for health issues, and maybe he ends up coaching again. So, yeah, I think Auburn will definitely have a new coach next year. Now, the only thing about LSU opening up is that this May, again, it's a very small May, but this may get some folks to be more apprehensive about making moves, and Auburn's one of them for sure. Does Auburn really want to be in the same pool of LSU, knowing that Summerall is also in their backyard, and they're kind of having to there might be a bidding war with them and Auburn, or them and LSU. Does Auburn want to get into that? It's possible, and I think this is something that I believe John Tolte mentioned on the College Football Insiders there on CBS, that, yeah, there's a lot of big schools that want to make moves, but now with LSU entering in and sort of them launching their, hypothetical nuke into the sky here, schools like Auburn and others that may want to make moves, maybe they say, you know what, it's too crowded right now. We should probably just wait this thing out and see what happens next year. Now, for Auburn, unfortunately, that means you probably missed out on John Summerall, which would be it'd be pretty disappointing. I'm just being honest. That would be a very bad missed opportunity for them. But I still believe, because Summerall is available and his name is hot right now, and of course, the thing with G5 coaches is, look, your window of opportunity to get a big job when things are going well is very small. So if you're Summerall, this is his last year at Tulane. There's no doubt this is his last year. And if you're Auburn, if you want to get him, again, because of his ties, both with himself and his wife being an Auburn alum, again, I think he has said privately that it would be his dream job to get. If you want Summerall, you've got to get your shit together and basically put your foot down and say, no, we are on the market too, and we want Summerall as bad as anyone. So that's definitely the one to watch. Now, two new ones. This one, definitely, I think we mentioned it briefly, but I don't think it's been talked about nationally, is Michigan State. I believe they're on a 5-game losing streak off of Smith's second year. Defense has been atrocious. From what I'm hearing now nationally, it does sound like Jonathan Smith is done at Michigan State. I believe it is sort of inevitable that there will be a regime change there. I think folks are very unhappy with him. Sort of the vibe I'm getting, he's sort of like a Brian Harsin type figure. It seems like it's not been a very good fit, which is shocking to me, because I thought I truly believe it would have worked. Maybe they give another year to fix it, but look, man, if you're going on a 5-game losing streak and you're giving up 30-plus points per game, Yeah, I think Jonathan Smith there might be next in terms of like the Virginia Tech level of coaching jobs opening up. That one's probably next. So yeah, that one's definitely new one to watch there. That one's sort of been percolating beneath the scenes. Yeah, very much so possible that that before Wisconsin could become open. So just letting you know that that might be one we have to watch. That might be may have been one that we didn't think about back during the spring and summer, but now has sort of become an issue or has sort of grown into a problem. Next here, Mike Norvell at Florida State in terms of future jobs opening. Again, this one seems inevitable. I know they play Wake Forest this weekend. Who really gives a shit? I mean, let's be real. I mean, do Florida State fans really care anymore? I don't think so. No. Yeah, I mean, that seems like it's over with Mike Norvell. I think he's barbecue chicken. I think him and the AD are both gone. And sort of, and the reason why people believe that Alford's gone too. I may have mentioned this before, but just the way he's handled the NIL stuff there is a big deal. He's not been very embraceful of it. Not to mention he's the one that sort of got him in this situation with giving Norvell this insanely huge contract, a new extension after he was rumored for the Bama job. That's clearly on him. So yeah, Norvell probably done. And this new one to finish up the coaching carousel update is Steve Sarkisian at Texas. Now this came out before the Mississippi State game, which they came back and won, but it came out during around game day, I believe, or just before game day came on. That NFL circles bring his name up. Jimmy Sexton, his agent, like many coaches, that's their agent. He represents a lot of people. Obviously, he put out the statement. So, and then Sark talked about it. And look, I mean, I know a lot of folks were kind of dogging on Sark for his response and his rhetoric towards those reports. And look, I understand it. I don't have much of a problem with it, but I do also understand why people would be, I don't know, kind of ticked off by it, I guess is the word I was trying to think about, or sort of rubbing them the wrong way. But I guess the thing is, do I think these are real? Do I think these are real, conversations being had about Steve Sarkisian potentially being in play for any NFL jobs that are open up? So think like the Titans, Dolphins, maybe. Certainly possible. Now, I think what's happening here, and this was brought up on the College Football Insiders on Sunday morning, of course, before Brian Kelly was fired, when he talked about Sark. And I think the thinking is here, what may have happened is what folks were reporting, mostly NFL folks initially, and then it got to people like Pete Thamel and others, his name being brought up, that's true. But it's more of like in passing, right? When you have all these agents and people who represent these coaches, particularly for the NFL and other jobs, it's more of like a casual bring up, right? Like, for example, with LSU, I guarantee you that Dan Lanning will be brought up, but Dan Lanning's not a serious candidate. That's just, someone casually saying, hey, a Dan Lanning type figure, and then maybe someone in the room messages a reporter and they say, hey, Dan Lanning was brought up at LSU. Then you start to hear, hey, Dan Lanning to LSU is going to happen, or he's considered for the job. No, like that's sort of, this whole scenario of, the game of telephone, right? Where it gets lost in translation, right? So that's what I think happened here. I think you did hear, or I think what did end up happening is, again, I think it was, folks casually just bringing up Sark's name. Maybe it wasn't serious, and then folks heard about it and they just reported it to, or at least they gave that information to major NFL reporters. So again, I'm not faulting him for reporting it. I just feel like it feels more of like, hey, the name was brought up casually. Is it serious or not? We don't know, but it was brought up, right? It was just, we heard it. So that's the thing that's happening there. Do I think Sark's leaving? No. Do I think it's weird timing that this is happening? Yeah, for sure. Given how their season has gone and what happened, what transpired Saturday, even in a win. Yeah, a bit of a weird timing situation. But do I think he's leaving? No. Do I think his name was brought up casually in his meetings and it was like mistranslated, or at least it was out of context? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's definitely what happened though. So, now in terms of current openings, we talked about LSU, Florida again. I believe it will start and end with Lane Kiffin, but now with LSU entering the equation, again, it's sort of this like kind of war going on, if you will, this money war going on now with LSU and Florida. But yeah, I do believe with Florida, it is Lane Kiffin who will be the starting endpoint for them in their search. Now, another name that has been brought up, and this was brought up with Dan Hicken, the guy. He's not just a guy; he's a radio host here in Jacksonville. Covers the Jags. He's also they also cover a lot of the stuff around UF, and he brought this up on his radio show here in Jacksonville. Dan Hicken did about Jeff Brom. And Brom, of course, he's at Louisville. That's his alma mater. But there has been rumblings that, while he is, yes, connected to Louisville, if a big opportunity came to him, he would probably leave. So that's a name to watch, I guess. Not likely, but again, with his ties there to Louisville and the city, his brothers played there. He played there. His dad played and coached there, I believe. That to me will be a very hard sell because of the whole legacy thing and, does he want to leave or not? And, ruin that reputation there he has in Kentucky. So that one, we'll watch that one. Another one, Drinkwitz at Missouri. A little bit easier to sell now because obviously his team with the quarterback injury, with both guys being out now, definitely seems like their season, at least in terms of reasonable postseason expectations, are done now. It might be easier to get him if you're a job that's open. So, again, talk about LSU with, Lane Kiffin, John Summerall, some other names. Penn State, the Matt Rule stuff, we'll see about that. Again, you've heard my thoughts on that. I'm not over the moon about it. I think Matt Rule's a good coach, but, is it that much different from what you had with James Franklin? Now, speaking of James Franklin, of course, his name is, being attached to a lot of jobs. Don't be surprised if you hear his name brought up for the LSU job. He was attached to that job years ago when Ed Orgeron got fired. So it would be sort of, back to the future type situation here where you're going back in time. And, it's almost like we did we did go back in time if that did happen. But, Penn State, we'll see. Matt Rule is definitely up there. Matt Campbell certainly could be in the mix there for Penn State. And that is the coaching carousel. Of course, we will keep you guys informed about it, about the current jobs, potential openings, and any breaking news that happens. So, coaching carousel. Interesting. We're getting this. We're getting a lot of action before Halloween, and I believe is this the most action of coaches being fired before Halloween? I think it is, but how about that coaching carousel? It's only getting even more crazier, folks. I mean, especially for coaches who ended up moving, like for example, Ole Miss becomes open. Interesting to see whose names come up for that job. Not big names, but certainly some interesting G5 coaches, especially. So, coaching carousel, silly season upon us, or it's not upon us; it's here now. So, so finally, we'll get into actual games here. We'll take a quick little water break. I'll mute here on YouTube, and let me see here if I can find the mute button. Here you go. There's okay, and so again, if you guys are new here, again, make sure you subscribe, like the videos and streams and whatnot. Follow us on X, Twitter. If you guys noticed too on YouTube or even on the audio version, I sound pretty tired. That's because I am pretty tired. I'll be honest. If you didn't really have a good night sleep last night, I was up, unfortunately, kind of late. It was pretty miserable, but it's okay. Even if I do have bags underneath my eyes, we're still doing the show no matter what. Even I may seem a little bit less energized than I usually do, but it happens sometimes. So games here, got a lot of big games in the SEC and also abroad. First up, Vanderbilt at Texas. I believe this is the 3:30 or noon on ABC. I think Texas, according to FanDuel, not a sponsor of the show, just the asset we use for research. They are a 1.5 point favorite at home. Didn't think you would ever believe that Texas would be barely a touchdown favorite or barely just a point favorite at home, let alone against Vanderbilt. Very rare. I think what Vegas is telling you just up front, these are both very even teams to a certain extent. Though I will say, I think in the power ratings world, I believe, it will be. Actually, I think it might even be Vanderbilt actually favorite in the power ratings world. But regardless, though, Vegas obviously believes this should be a very competitive game, and both of these teams are both not too much. There's not enough distance from themselves. Now, in terms of the athletes, yes, Texas has much better athletes. Yes. This is the best defense that Texas would have faced all year. Okay, even better than LSU's defense that they faced a while ago. And it's also on the road for Texas. So if you're building the case for Texas, yes, defense is good. It's at home. It's the first time Texas has been, or Vanderbilt has been on the road in a hostile environment since the Bama game, and you saw what happened there when Bama pulled away. Now, the only problem, though, for Texas is we don't know if Arch Manning's going to play or not. Of course, he got knocked out against Mississippi State, so we don't know who will be the starter there officially. I believe it might be the transfer, I believe. I think that's who will be the backup is it's a guy from the transfer portal. So that's concerning for Texas. That yes, defense is awesome. Did it crack a little bit on Saturday, this past Saturday, a little bit, but I do believe they, look, you win, you survive. I still think that defense is still good enough to at least keep them in this game. Obviously, I mean, look, it's at home too, but the offense over Texas, even with Arch Manning or not, that's gonna be difficult. And I think Clark Lee, the defensive mind he is probably salivating at the fact that he is going against a team that doesn't have much of an identity on offense. Not to mention they don't have their starting quarterback. So that is a big, big trouble for Vanderbilt. Again, for Texas, the home field stuff, they don't usually lose at home that much. I believe the last time they lost at home was Georgia last year, I believe. Yeah, Georgia last year was actually, I think, their only home loss. Yeah, only home loss they've had since joining the SEC. So this will be interesting for them to lose to Vanderbilt, which happens to a lot of folks. But again, the last 2 times for Vanderbilt, that was at home. This time's on the road. The scaling up in competition, that theory probably still in play. But I think we've seen that may have been, or maybe it doesn't apply to Vanderbilt this year. Because, look, Vanderbilt's obviously a team in takeoff mode. They're getting very confident. They're playing at a level that is a little bit better than their blue chip ratio. So they can also be considered. We've seen that with certain teams like TCU a couple years ago, kind of fits this profile. I think some of those early Dabo Clemson teams are very similar, not very high in the blue chip ratio, but we're playing up to a level that was above their blue chip ratio. I think Vanderbilt has that. Pavia and sort of that momentum they've been grabbing, and really ever since the Bama game, losing that game, they've had it. Now again, the problem is though, you are going on the road to a very hostile environment and to a team that does have a very, very competent and a very, very good defense. Again, that was exposed on last week, but that was on the road, and now you're at home. They have Vanderbilt coming in sky high and on the top of the world, a ton of momentum. And again, look, I have respect for both of these programs, man. Both programs. I have a lot of respect for Sark, a lot of respect for the team he has assembled there. Now, yes, could there be changes there after the season's over with like coordinator stuff? Yeah, more likely. But I still respect him. I also respect the hell out of Clark Lee and company with Tim Beck, the OC. I believe that's who it is. Yeah, Tim Beck. The other Tim Beck, not the guy that, not the Tim Beck at Utah. I believe. Let me double check. You could probably research that. Pretty sure that is right. That's who it is. Yeah. Yeah, the other Tim Beck. So that little staff there, of course, Barton Simmons, the legendary Barton Simmons, the GM there for Vanderbilt, obviously well respected in the podcast industry at 247 and whatnot. But I have a lot of respect for those guys on both sides there. It's a very good home environment for Texas. I believe the crowd should be energized. Defense should be fine. The offense, I don't know about. I've been very conflicted on this game, personally. It's been literally a coin flip here. If I really had a coin, I don't think I do have one near me. I would probably flip it on here on stream, but I'm not going to do that. Let's go ahead and look at the spread. I'll give you guys my picks here. My pick on this game. So again, FanDuel -1.5 for Texas. Now the College Bowl Nerds model, Josh and Daniel, those guys. Of course, the College Bowl Nerds, good channel. They have their model free for everyone to use, and their model has Vanderbilt winning by 1.9. So they'll make them in 1.9 favorite over Texas. Again, I've been very conflicted on this, man. Again, part of me thinks Texas is at home. They have the best defense that Vanderbilt's faced all year. Vanderbilt has, for the most part, struggled on the road, especially against the higher competition. But I can't get out of my head that this team's in takeoff mode and that they are a team that is kind of in a weird zone right now. Again, sort of like TCU in 2022, sort of like those early Dabo Clemson teams. They're just playing a little bit higher than what their blue chip ratio is. So that's why, again, if Texas were to win, that'll be, again, them coming down to earth, come back down to earth, them sort of, again, it's the scaling up thing that maybe it bites them this week. very much so possible. But I can't go against Barton Simmons and Parkley and company. I just can't do it. So I'm taking Vanderbilt to win the game outright. Somehow, some way, I think they do it again. Again, I was very close to picking Texas. Very close. And look, there's a good route for them to win this game. There's obviously a route for them to win this game. If they did win this game, wouldn't surprise me. Again, they're at home. They have better defense, better talent, better athletes. It's at home again. That's a big factor. And again, last time we saw Vanderbilt on the road in a hostile environment, you saw what happened, especially in the second half. So wouldn't shock me if Texas won this game. They obviously definitely could, and they might. It's more likely they probably will than won't. But I think Vanderbilt, they're a team that's, again, in takeoff mode. They seem like they're very confident in themselves. I just feel like they're a team that, with Pavia being there, as long as he stays healthy, he's just going to will them to wins, man. And I think this might be an opportunity for them, especially with the quarterback thing with, is Arch going to play or not, which I don't think he's going to, but we'll see. So, yeah, Vanderbilt winning outright. Next up here, I believe this is the night game on ABC. OU at Texas. They've already played. OU at Tennessee. This is of course, rematch from last year when Tennessee went to Norman and blew them out. This time it's on the road. This time for OU. And now they're going to have the chance to play the spoiler here after losing to Ole Miss and Texas over the past few weeks. So they, in Oklahoma, they're in wounded Sooner mode. Wounded Sooner mode. And now they have to go on the road to a Tennessee team that feel themselves a little bit after beating Kentucky, but I think Kentucky is in a situation where they're kind of quitting right now. So, yeah, I don't have a lot of at least I don't have a lot of faith that result against Kentucky for Tennessee was like Tennessee's all of a sudden back or not. No, they're not. At least I don't think they are, especially defensively. I mean, they gave up a lot of points again, so there's that. I think OU may have a big advantage here. May sound a bit silly, but I mean, look, their receivers aren't bad. Like Deion Burks and all of them, their receiver core for Oklahoma is not terrible. Yes, do I think that John Mateer has been sort of sloppy, kind of showing us who he really is? Yeah, I think so. Maybe some of those folks who were a little bit quick to have him winning the Heisman looking pretty stupid right now. Josh Pate. Yeah, probably. But I mean, look, Oklahoma won this game too, because I think Oklahoma, in a lot of ways, is a better defense than what even Tennessee faced in against Georgia and Alabama. I think they're not much better. With Brent Venables and company, that's going to be tough for them to score. That's going to be tough for Tennessee to score on against a defense that is very disciplined. Of course, a lot of those guys remember what happened last year. It's a bit of a revenge factor. Where my nose again. So that's also in play for Oklahoma, right? The revenge factor, a good defense that does travel pretty well. It's going to be tough for Tennessee, man. And look, Joey Aguilar, for how good as he's been this year, he is turnover prone. He has had a tendency to do that. And this might be another chance for him to do that. And that's where Oklahoma, I think, stands a really good chance. And again, playing good defense. If it travels, it travels. If they get turnovers, if they can sort of, get Tennessee into like third and longs and, getting crucial stops there, especially on third downs and even fourth downs. That's what I think this game will be won. Is again, basically Oklahoma defense dominating the game. Now for Tennessee, for them to win, they need their secondary to really step up, which I don't think they will. Again, even if some real wins, again, the game against Syracuse, I brought up a lot. Yes, I know that was Angeli, and, Syracuse is totally different now with him going down, but when he was healthy, Angeli, when they faced Tennessee, that was not a blowout, or at least not a total blowout. That was a very competitive game, and Syracuse had a lot of, they had a lot of yards through the air. And I think Oklahoma can certainly do that with their receivers and their quarterback talent. Certainly a lot better than what you've seen for the most part for Tennessee besides Bama and Georgia. So, yeah, I think for Tennessee, look, their secondary just needs to show up. Luckily it's at home. You have the home crowd there, but, we said that about, the Georgia game, and it didn't matter. Georgia really did a really good job of exposing that secondary, and he saw it against Bama down the road. But, for Tennessee, secondary, got to really step up. I don't know if they're going to. They also, if you're Tennessee, got to score points. Got to find a way to score against this Oklahoma defense that is very, very good, very talented. And, again, you're going against one of the best defensive minds in college football. And, again, the flip side for Oklahoma, John Mateer's got to play out of his mind in this game. He's got to. Because we have seen teams do this on the road at Tennessee recently under Heupel. is that when they get down, when Tennessee, I mean, if you're not named Georgia, besides them, I mean, you've seen teams there when they've gone to Knoxville, and when they get down and whatnot early in the game, they crumble, and we've seen that time and time again. So you've got to get off to a fast start for Oklahoma offensively, and if for Tennessee, you themselves got to get off to a fast start, and you got to build. And I think for this game, if either team were to win here, based on how I feel, I think this game is probably in the 20s. I think like 24-21, something like that, 27-20, 22. Well, that's the type of game I'm expecting here. I'm not totally expecting it to be a massive blowout for either side, nor am I expecting it to be a 40-point game. Like the most points in this game, I'm imagining for either team to win here, based on what I've seen, is around 24 to 31 points. That's 7-point gap there. That's where I think that's how many points I believe it's going to take for either team to win this game, is to score between 24 to 31 points, I think. And we'll see. Can Tennessee do it? I think they can do it. I think the fact that that's at home, you have an Oklahoma team that is, again, you don't know if they're checking out or not. They're in, wounded sooner mode. Of course, Tennessee, Heupel, the connection over there in Norman, I think it is obviously, of course, personal for him, even though he doesn't really show it during the game, much like last year and throughout, the spring and summer going into last year too. I mean, he didn't really bring it up as much as people thought he would, but I mean, it's still personal for him, especially how things went when he was there back in 2014. But yeah, this is certainly personal for him. It's also personal for Oklahoma too. It's a revenge spot for them. But I also think it's also revenge, at least on the Tennessee side of things, for what happened back in 2015, 10 years ago, when Oklahoma went to Knoxville. It was Baker Mayfield, and of course that was Bob Stoops. This was, Tennessee had Butch Jones, and I think a lot of folks up there remember that game, and also remember how they really squandered an opportunity to get a huge win during the Butch Jones regime, and they failed to do it. And I think a lot of folks, a lot of fans and powerful boosters remember that game, and I think this will be an opportunity for them to atone for that. I think it'll be a big opportunity for them to get some revenge, even though it's 10 years late. So let's go look at what the FanDuel number is on the model from College Football Nerds is. So FanDuel has Tennessee minus 2.5, so obviously they're expecting it to be a very competitive game. At least at the time I put that down on the notes. And CFB Nerds model has Oklahoma minus 9.3. So they have the opposite team favorites. They believe the wrong team's favored. I disagree with them. I think Tennessee, again, going back to what I just mentioned about 10 years ago and what happened, and I think a lot of folks there still remember that game 10 years ago when Baker and Oklahoma came into Tennessee, and remember we're down 17-3, I believe, at one point, and they came back and won. Those folks remember that, and I think this is a massive, massive opportunity for Josh Heupel and them to get yet another big win. I think they do it. I think they win. I think they cover. I think this Oklahoma team is kind of in check-on mode right now. I just don't know how motivated they are. I think last week was definitely, very telling in a lot of ways. I think defensively, there was a lot of flaws that were exposed, particularly in the running game, which I think Tennessee will probably try to thrive on. So give me Tennessee to win, give them to cover, and I just don't like the vibe of Oklahoma right now. That's another job, too, I believe, that could be worth watching in terms of a potential change there as well. We'll see. Some water real quick and we'll move along. I believe we have 2 more games left. Yeah, 2 more games left, and we'll wrap up with the Tuesday Poll and Bucs Saints. Miami goes to SMU. This is I believe, on ESPN, I believe. Yeah, 3:30 on ESPN or noon on ESPN. But, yeah, Miami at SMU. Miami, according to FanDuel, is a 11.5 point favorite. So pretty significant favorite there. Of course, SMU just lost to Wake Forest. So they are in the ultimate wounded animal mode, wounded Mustang pony mode. They're at home. Of course, you're hearing a lot about, Brett Lashley, his future. Not he's getting fired. It's just that will he be there going forward? I think it's a huge opportunity for them, right? I mean, last year you had Florida State come there, and of course they were a dead team, or at least the corpse of Florida State. They traveled to Dallas last year and they lost. So if you're SMU, there's sort of, I guess, your example, if you will, of a Florida team traveling to Dallas. First time a lot of those folks have ever been there before that stadium there on campus there at SMU. I expect this to be a very, very interesting game. I expect that SMU will be able to score points on Miami. I think their offense, and sort of a lot of ways, very unique. And I think in a game like this, where you're a big underdog, you have an opportunity to really, really ruin a season for Miami. I think they could be up for this game. I think they can. I think Ray Lashley and them has shown that they can do it. They just haven't shown it, right? I mean, you have the Wake Forest game, you have the Baylor game, just a lot of missed opportunities. I think for them, being back at home, you get the big school and one of the best teams in the conference coming to your place. It's not impossible to see this game being pretty close. Now for Miami, they can out-athlete SMU, sort of like the Vanderbilt Texas thing, right? Where I believe they can out-athlete Miami, or at least Miami can athlete SMU, as I'm trying to say. Man, I must be really tired. So I believe just in terms of the athlete stuff, they totally outman SMU. I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, like, Miami has the best offensive line, defensive line combo in the country. But the problem is, though, if you're Miami and if you're SMU, an opportunity here, do you potentially have a turnover or two from Carson Beck, who has been very much so turnover prone, at least this year and going back to last year at Georgia? Not impossible. It's not a guarantee, but, it's not out of the realm possibility that you could get a random turnover, a fumble, interception, potentially to start the game. And if that happens, the crowd gets involved, the offensive Ray Lashley didn't get going, they score early, I could see that happening. So that's not impossible to watch out, but at least to watch out for, I guess I was trying to say. But again, in terms of the athletes, yes, SMU is not on the same caliber as Miami. But again, this is on the road from Miami. It's a weird spot for them. Sort of kind of an example of a Florida team going to a cool weather spot. I believe it will be pretty cool there, like it will be for a lot of the southeastern region, including here in Florida, day after Halloween. But I think this is a dangerous spot here for Miami. It's a kind of I don't know, it's very, very tricky. I mean, I think about this too. Miami, they've already taken their bye week. So in terms of the scheduling dynamics here, or at least going forward, they've already had two of their bye weeks. They had the two of them were sandwiched in between, or had the Florida State game sandwiched in between them. So they've already been off already. They've been playing right now like 3 straight games, and they have 4 more to go. I know I don't know if it'll be a problem like for this week, but certainly down the road it could be a problem, especially if you're just trying to grind it out, get to Charlotte, which is yet another road game too, so it's also on the road, and also going to a cold weather environment for a Florida team, which I know a lot of folks make fun of, but trust me, it's a real thing. If you don't believe me, go ask Florida and Billy Napier losing to Vanderbilt a number of years ago. Go ask Jimbo Fisher and Florida State losing to Boston College in 2016, I believe, 17. So it's not impossible for that to happen. I think this could be another example of that. And I think, again, for SMU, you're desperate. You want to at least get another huge win or at least another huge win for Ray Lashley, or I believe his first big win. Major opportunity for that program there. Again, he is also being considered for a lot of jobs, so it would be kind of a showcase game for him in terms of fans around the country who have not paid attention to SMU. And yes, reminder, they are in the ACC, so just a friendly reminder, them in Stanford, which is atrocious by the way. I just cannot believe that. That's where college football came to. Like, teams in Dallas, Texas, and in Palo Alto, California, which is like halfway to Russia and Japan, are in the ACC. Makes no sense, but geography and college football is pretty much dead. So let's check out what the model has here. So or at least the CFB Nerds models. Yeah, so they actually with the FanDuel, first scan again, FanDuel has it at a 11.5 point favorite for Miami, so they're favored by 11.5. The CFB Nerds has it Miami minus 13.2, so a little bit higher, but in the same ballpark. I think Miami will win this game. I think in terms of the athletes, they out-athlete SMU. I think the line of scrimmages here could pose a problem for SMU because they're having to go against a very good defensive line in Miami. And on the flip side, I don't know if SMU has the potential to block Miami on their offensive line. I think I was trying to say that. Yeah, but either way, the lines of scrimmage for Miami on both sides is going to be a challenge. But I think there's some magic here. And I think if it being at home, It's a showcase opportunity. I do believe Fred Lashley and company are going to empty the chambers. I think they will try a lot of different things. I think we'll maybe even see some trick plays. I just have a feeling this might be a weird game. So I'm picking Miami to win, but give me SMU plus 11.5. That's big. That's a really big number here, in my opinion. So I think Miami wins. I think SMU keeps it very close. I believe this will be a very competitive game. But I think in the end, SMU's inability to consistently block Miami's defensive line, especially, that's going to be a bit of a problem. I think that will be a factor. I think SMU doesn't win the game. I think they keep it very close. And then finally, Georgia, Florida, the cocktail party. Final time, by the way, in Jacksonville. It's going to Tampa and Atlanta afterwards, which is a shame, by the way. I know a lot of folks will say, well, they can't do it because, of the, the ability to keep a neutral site, and, the folks in Jacksonville wouldn't appreciate that being that game for at least 2 years being a home and away. I don't care. It's disappointing it's not going to. Hopefully cooler heads will prevail and it ends up being the case, but probably won't. Nothing will change, but it's a shame that it won't, because, it'd be pretty cool to see, Kirby Smart and company going to the Swamp or vice versa, whoever leads Florida next year, going to Athens. But final year in Jacksonville for a little bit. Of course, the Jags, speaking of Jacksonville, of course, will be in Orlando, I believe. So, yeah, a lot of pro teams here in Jacksonville, except for the Jumbo Shrimp. They'll be around, I think. But, yeah, final time in Jacksonville for a couple years. They'll come back, of course. But this game, interestingly, the spread on it, I guess actually I probably should let you guess. What do you think it is? Is it Georgia minus 14.5, 21.5, 22, 25, 30, a million? Georgia, according to FanDuel, is only favored by 7.5. Very short number, especially very short. I think this could be a very competitive game here. I think with Florida, we still have DJ Lag. We still have a lot of talent on this team. Much like, and this is something Josh Page brought up before, you've seen us a little bit of vibe between Arkansas. Yes, they haven't won any games with them, but you've seen both of those, the Auburn and Tennessee game be very competitive in different ways. But is it possible that with Billy Gonzalez, not Billy Napier, you're going from one Billy to another Billy, albeit it's the interim, could Billy Gonzalez, he being their own coach, and him sort of allowing the Florida, especially on offense, the Florida offense actually operate as the offense instead of just having Billy Napier calling the plays? Is it possible that you could see some things unlocked from DJ Lagwell you have not seen unlocked yet? Possible. It's not a guarantee, but it's not impossible. And look, even going back to last year, right? Before DJ got hurt and the freaking kid from Yale had to come in, Florida was very competitive with Georgia last year. So that was not, that's something to keep an eye on, or at least to consider if we're over this game. Now, grant you, yes, it's a different season, but that was a competitive game last year. And largely the same amount of talent, and in fact a little bit better talent, is on Florida's roster right now. And again, with the backup, with interim coach, usually you see teams sort of galvanize around him, and what that means is, sort of like the same thing back with quarterbacks, right? Whenever you have either a backup quarterback or an interim coach, you see a lot of these teams sort of realize, or a group of, or not. That's it. What I'm trying to say here is when you see teams with a backup quarterback or an interim coach, you sort of do end up seeing a lot of guys pick up the slack, right? Because they know, hey, this isn't, he's not an actual coach. He's an interim. Maybe it is. Maybe we do have some, I don't know what you call it, I guess some responsibility, to sort of pick up the slack, sort of, kind of make a good impression on an interim guy, right? To make yourselves, or to at least make yourselves look very, or at least get the interim coach impressed with you, right? And sort of carrying the burden of not having a head coach, I guess I'm trying to say. Yeah, so it sort of galvanizes the locker room, sort of, circling the wagons type thing. Makes you more extra motivated knowing that we are playing for someone who isn't our coach. So if you're more loose about it, not to mention potentially the atmosphere for some of these situations could be very toxic. So I do believe Florida will be very spirited. I think they will be out there to compete. I think it's also possible that you could see some stuff unlocked from DJ Lagwell. Not to mention, if you're building the case here for Florida to win the game, Georgia's defense is not very, it's not something that I necessarily fear. You saw it exposed against Tennessee. You saw it obviously exposed against Bama. You saw it exposed against Ole Miss. Even in some of those games or wins, you still got exposed. And I think that being there, and it being a neutral site, and now the fact that you don't have Bill Napier calling the plays anymore, I think it's possible, not likely, but possible, you can see Florida has some success here offensively. You could potentially see a different version of Florida that you weren't seeing under Billy Napier offensively, but you now are seeing now with the chains being, I guess hypothetically taken off of you. So that is, I believe, in the play here, that you could see DJ Lagway and company just get unleashed and actually feed off of a very, very, very poor Georgia defense that, at least poor in terms of Georgia standards. It's not a defense that I necessarily feel or fear. Now, for Georgia, and on the flip side, I mean, look, you're going against a very experienced defense. It's not a bad defense for Florida. Kind of like Auburn, it's like both Florida and Auburn, good defenses, horrible offenses. But for Florida, again, the flip side is they don't have their head coach anymore. So they feel more loose now knowing that the head guy's gone. They can sort of, play a different style now a little bit. But Florida defensively, going to be a challenge for Georgia, I think. I think they're in some ways a little bit better than some teams they faced already. Georgia has. Like, they're better than Tennessee. They're better than Ole Miss. Don't think they're that much different than Bama, but they're about the same. But and for Georgia, this has to be a Gunnar Stockton game again. Because if I think it's going to go the way I think it's going to go, Florida's going to be able to score their points. I think Gunnar Stockton needs to be the reason why they win this game. Is it necessarily sustainable? No. Georgia going for it, but it's still a big deal. I mean, you still need to win the game, right? So Gunnar Stockton, needs to be the reason why they win, because I do not trust Georgia defense right now. I just don't. Again, the most recent outings, they have not been very inspiring on the defensive side of the ball. So, and they're off a bye, too, and both these teams are off a bye. So, we'll see what adjustments Georgia has made it since the Ole Miss game, and we'll see what adjustments Florida has made on the offensive side. So, we'll see about that. Very interesting chess match there with Glenn Schumann and Kirby Smart versus this new look Florida offense, if you will. So let's look at the model and the model, CFB Nerds model, and the FanDuel number again. Reminder again, FanDuel has Georgia minus 7.5. Now FanDuel, a little bit different than College Ball Nerds, their model. Their model has UGA favored, much like FanDuel. I believe, did I say Florida for the FanDuel thing? I don't think I did. But yeah, Georgia minus 7.5. FanDuel has that there, but CFB Nerds has UGA minus 13.1, so a little bit more of a higher number. I'm kind of going to be honest with you. That's a bit large for me, for Georgia, to be favored by that much. Excuse me here. That's a bit high for me. So, because of what I believe Florida is going to be, or at least what they could be offensively and potentially having things unlocked, the fact that Georgia defensively, even with the bye week, I don't think they've got everything fixed. I think Georgia will win the game outright, but I think much like the SMU Miami game, I think Florida doesn't really cover here. I think this will be a very competitive game. Again, if DJ Lagway can just stay healthy, unlike last year, they could win this game. They could definitely win this game. So give me UGA to win. Give me Florida to cover. And if that's it for the games, of course we'll do, upset alert and all that on Thursday as usual. So we'll cover the rest of the games there. So if you're wondering where Penn State, Ohio State is, no, we're not doing a preview for that. That will be on the upset alert segment. So we have Tuesday Poll, and we have Bucs Saints reaction. So we will finish up with that. Get some more water real quick. Again, thank you guys so much for bearing with me. I know it's been difficult with having the issues we had earlier, and not to mention I'm tired and very little sleep. So that is certainly a good thing here. I messed up on my computer there, but that's okay. But yeah, it's been it's been kind of a bit of a challenging day. I'll just say that. So hopefully Thursday's show should be a lot better. In terms of that, me not being tired and whatnot. So hopefully, and no, I was not watching the World Series last night. No, even though that was very interesting to see that. Even though I was still up, I wasn't watching the games. I'm not a baseball fan, but yeah, I did see went to 18th innings. My goodness. But no, even with very little sleep, we're still doing the show. So just bear with me if I sound a little bit discombobulated, but yeah. Let's see here. Tuesday poll. So again, we do this. I know last week we did it on Thursday, but we're back to the traditional Tuesday Tuesday release of the poll here that we do. So let's go ahead and get into it. So I can't show this on, or at least I'm not showing it here on YouTube, but hopefully someday we'll be able to do that. It would be nice, but I'd figure it out. But yeah, I'll just read it off here. I have it on my spreadsheet here. So from 25 to 20, again, we're going from 25 to 1. So at number 25, Texas at 6-2. I know you won. Yes, it was a close game, but because of that, I feel like you guys, that's why you had to fall, and also other teams rose up. So Texas at 25. 24, USC, welcome back. They were off last week. 23, Navy. I believe, did they win? I believe they played this week. I don't think they did. Let me see. Navy football. They may have played this week. I don't know if they did or not. Let me see. I think they did. Maybe. Let me see here. Navy 2025. Are they 7-0? Yes, they are. So yes, that is. I did get that right. So yep, 7-0. I'm not ranked, shamefully, in the AP poll. Coaches poll is they are ranked, so good for them. They're supporting our troops there. So they are at 23 now. Notre Dame, who they play, I believe, soon. Are they playing this week or next week? Let me see. They play them after this week, so it'll be the following week. That's actually a big game. Well, actually, have two big games. They have Notre Dame in a few weeks, and have North Texas, which is a very, very good team, by the way, in the American. So that's not something to look past. That's a very dangerous game there for Davie. So that one we're paying attention to for sure. North Texas, but yeah, they're undefeated still. They should be ranked. But yeah, Notre Dame at 22, 21 BYU. Not a whole lot of movement, to be honest with you. But look, if they continue to win and continue to defy the odds of both the pollsters, well, I guess the pollsters a little bit, but also the power ratings. Because look, in the power ratings world, look, I don't care if they won or lost, or I don't care if they won the past two games. I don't think they're moving that much in power ratings, at least for a lot of folks. I mean, they're still going to be dogs to a lot of teams, but in terms of the rankings and stuff, yeah, they'll continue to move up and they continue to win. So they're at 20. They're at 21. Number 20, Iowa, after destroying Minnesota in the Florida Rosedale. Shamefully not in the AP poll. They're at our poll. They're at 20. They're at number 20. All right, 19. Let's do 19 for 16 here. 19, Michigan. South Florida losing to Memphis. There's not really shame in that, but unfortunately their playoff hopes are done. But, still a very good team. They're at 18. 17, Memphis. How about that? Ryan Silverfield and company back in the mix for the playoff. Now another former American team is at number 16, Houston. They move up a little bit after beating, who did they beat? Kansas State, I believe, or Arizona State. I don't remember. I think it was Arizona State, but yeah, they won again. And Willie Fritz and company, man, they just continue to rise up. They're like a bad penny. They always show up. So Houston at 16. Now, 15 to 11. 15, Tennessee. They won this weekend. Virginia at number 14, a little bit lower, or actually about the same as the other polls as well. So, yeah, Virginia at 14. 13, Cincinnati, a little bit higher than other folks. I think they're a good team. I think they're only lost to Nebraska, which was, a interception away from winning that game. So, Cincinnati at 13. Another team, too, in the Big 12 that's sort of floating around. Louisville, number 12. I think they were off this week, I believe. Then at number 11, Texas Tech, the highest-ranked team from the Big 12. Now, number 10 through 1. Number 10, Vanderbilt. I believe they were number 10 last week. Let me check. Yes, they didn't move. Not a whole lot of movement, frankly, in our top 10, but mostly it is the same. So, yeah, Vanderbilt, number 10. Ole Miss, number 9. Yeah, I didn't have Oklahoma on here. I mean, look, I could have ranked them, but personally, I think they're kind of trending down a little bit, just in my opinion. So that's why they're not on here. If you're curious, yeah, Oklahoma's on here. I believe they're the only team that really fell out significantly. So yeah, they are out. So yeah, Miami at 8, Oregon 9, or Oregon at 7. Georgia Tech still undefeated. I believe they're on a bye week. So they're at number 6. I believe they moved up just a little bit. Georgia at 5, Bama at 4, Texas A&M 3, Indiana 2. And then Ohio State, number 1. They're off this week, and they have Penn State this week. So that's the Tuesday poll. Again, the only major team that fell out was Oklahoma. I'm kind of done with them right now. So, look, if you continue to win, maybe you'll be brought back in, but not right now. So that, yeah, it's a Tuesday poll. Now, to wrap up, of course, Bucs Saints. Of course, the Bucs ended up winning this game. They are now on the bye week. Very good in terms of the defense and special teams yesterday on Sunday. I mean, that was just great. And I think what you're seeing with Tampa, at least this year, is that they are sort of like Texas A&M, at least in the NFL, sort of a toolkit team. They can win different ways. They can win the shootouts. They can win the close games, but they can also win with defensive special teams, and that's good to see. That's good that we are starting to see some things improve there. Now, the offense, yes, I know they're still out with a lot of key pieces who are still out, some longer than others, obviously, of Mike Evans. But after the bye week, they should get everyone back for that Patriots game, which could get moved around, by the way. It's not a guarantee they'll be sticking at the 1 o'clock. That could be a later game, like the primetime game on CBS, potentially even Sunday Night Football, potentially. But, yes, they dominate the Saints. Obviously, like I said earlier, I think that this result definitely didn't help the whole Brian Kelly situation. I think that definitely got a lot more folks angry in the state of Louisiana, knowing that this also happened on the same day or just the day after what happened to LSU against Texas A&M. So, yeah, good win, good special teams game, good game defensively. The offense kind of is what it is, but when you're playing a team like the Saints, you have no pulse, you have no identity, obviously. And look, Spencer Rattler, the rattlesnake, if you will, just probably his worst game as a Saint, probably. So I mean, they look bad, and that's definitely going to be a one-term coaching staff there for New Orleans, and they'll probably have a new coach there next year, more likely. Because they're really bad. And I mean, look, hey, good for Tampa, right? I mean, hey, look, too bad for them. I mean, Tampa is taking advantage here of a very, very weak division. I know the other results this weekend also helped with the Falcons losing and the Panthers losing. So it was a good weekend for Tampa after that nice rebound, by the way, too. Nice rebound after the Detroit game. So it was a short week. You have the bye week. You survived. Yes, it wasn't pretty offensively, but look, if your defense can show up like that against the reasonable bad teams, if you will, you have left in your schedule, you rest up a little bit, get key players back, especially for the bigger games here after the bye. 3 in a row with New England, Buffalo, and Los Angeles, the LA Rams. If you can go 2-1 in that stretch, or even 1-2, I think you should be okay. Just win one of them. I would appreciate it. So they have opportunities here to get some big wins here in the next few weeks. And after that, I mean, the Cardinals, Saints again, Falcons, your second game, Panthers twice, and you have the Dolphins sandwich in between. So very much so winnable games after the next 3 here. So very good win for Tampa. Again, wasn't pretty, but look, you showed you can win in different ways, and I think that's very positive, seeing Tampa winning in a style that you hadn't seen this year, that I think can show that you can win different ways, especially against the weaker teams in your, especially in your division. So how about that? Of course, we'll be back. That's it for the show. So we'll be back on Thursday. Again, we'll have the new clip-on mic, so hopefully the audio on YouTube is a lot better. Hopefully, I think it should be. It's one of those Bluetooth mics, clip-on one you can buy on Amazon. I think a lot of folks use it. So hopefully the audio should be 10 times better than what it is. I mean, look, the iPad audio is not bad either, but I think it'll probably sound a lot better. So hopefully going forward, it'll be a better solution. And hopefully, too, we'll get a StreamYard fixed with their issues. But luckily, our folks over here on Restream are helping us out big time. So until Thursday, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, middle of the week. Until then, take care. We'll see you on the